Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
What's up, everybody? That is a little too hot. Hey, how you doing? Post-lunch, post-break, everything. It is good to be here and indeed to be back here. This is my second social computing symposium, so I want to start with a thank you. I don't even know if she's still here. I think she had an appointment, but Dana was the first one to suck me into this room and into this world in some ways, and so many thanks publicly to her for doing that 4 years ago now. It's actually 4 years. I also want to let you know I'm actually dark social. That's how it works. So whatever Alexis Magical says, he took that from my life. I'll do a brief intro of me and the topic, and then we're going to jump into a bit of a conversation after I set up who is here with you. My background that's most relevant here is one of creativity, comedy, community, digital things. I worked for 5 years at The Onion as the director of digital there and trying to really push the bounds of expression, of fake journalism, and of comedy through digital platforms, and that was a lot of fun to do. I did write this book, How to Be Black, and I started this company, which is on theme for our topic in a very strange way because it's kind of trying to see innovation more broadly than it is often understood, and that is, can we smash together, humor and creativity and tech to build new things and teach in new ways? So what we actually do is, lectures and workshops and consulting work engaged in making tech more human and in making comedy more playful and accessible through digital. We do a convening, facilitating, provocation set of work featured in Comedy Hack Day, where we get hackers, software developers, and comedians together to build funny apps intentionally, and the winning app from our first one, which is at Pivotal Labs here in Union Square, was Shout Roulette. It allows you to find people on the internet you disagree with, and then yell at them in real time using the magic of the internet, which is great for democracy. I think Clay would be proud. And non-Americans, those who hate America, Tom Coates. So, and then our third division is making things. We have apps in the pipeline, one about better brainstorming and making your meetings suck a lot less, which is really a process app, and the other tentatively titled Location-Based Racism, which you could find the preview screen at locationbasedracism.com, and it uses big data as well as mobility and racism and puts them all together and allows you to find racism right around you. That which people say does not exist is right behind you. And we are willing to satirically reveal it to you by pulling in from various social services. So that's the quick scan. I wanted to bring people to this room who I don't think have been in the room before, and I know them all through various circumstances. So I'll just go in order of their seating, though not necessarily in their talking, because they're going to yell over top of each other a lot. To my immediate right is Taya Weiss. Taya, as she briefly introduced herself earlier, is a skydiver and a wingsuiter, and really just a human flyer. I met Taya back in college. She's always had a sense of adventure. She used to write travel guides, and there was an incident involving a camel in sub-Saharan Africa, which maybe she'll get to or not, but the camel did not make it, and she was a part of that process. Taya also graduated of the Woodrow Wilson School and has a whole other policy background in fighting gun trafficking and traveling all over the continent of Africa, teaching police forces about violence against women and children, which is one of the bodies of her work that I most respect, other than jumping out of planes where you don't have to. So we'll talk to her a little bit more and show some video. Alexa and I met at South by Southwest. I've only known her just short of a year, and I saw her talk at a TED event. We were in the lineup, and I was like, she's written this book, The Misfit Economy, which is basically looking at rogues and vagabonds and ne'er-do-wells and the people on the fringe of society and finding innovation there. And it's like, it's not looking at hacker spaces, right? It's not looking at PhD programs. It's not looking at the sanctioned parts of our world. And so the book is coming, and we're going to get a more preview of what she's found in her journeys through that. To her right is the second person I ever met, my sister. It's my sister, Belinda. And in addition to being a good older sister and not abusing her age and strength advantage, which she held for a time, which is over now. Belinda and I have looked up to her. She's sort of an innovation in how I live, but I think most relevant to this room, 20 years in journalism. She did the print newspaper thing, and we had parallel jobs for some time, in that I was director of digital at a fake news organization, and she was digital news director at a real news organization, the Lansing State Journal, where she last served as assistant managing editor. Previous to that, Dallas Morning News, USA Today, North Hills News Record, a bunch of quality teaching of writing and expression, and left all that to teach yoga in the hood in Lansing. Because that's how good journalism's doing as a business. So keep that in mind. You still have time to choose your path. And then last but certainly not least, Anand Girdadas, who I met very romantically and strangely in Paris. We were on a balcony, and he had just given a beautiful talk in the museum, and he and his fiancée, now wife, were there, Priya Parker. Some of you may know her. Anand is a writer primarily. He is emerging into his own FaceTime on-air broadcast role. He's a columnist at the New York Times. His columns really cover broadly. It's called Currents, and it's about innovation and change. It's politics, it's tech, it's culture, and it's often the weaving of those two, and he travels about as much as I do. So I wanted him here as a sort of chronicler and curator of what he's seeing around the world from a variety of realms. Derek DeShawn was supposed to be here, and he has two little girls, and they both got the flu again, and they just had it like a month ago. So he had to really lock down and take care of them. Derek's perspective was one, a former host of Al Jazeera English, the first host that they ever had, global musician and digital music entrepreneur, as well as public speaker about what is cool and what youth are doing around the world. And he's going to lob in some examples from his experience on the continent of Africa with satellite radio, mobile payments, etc. So we may touch on those anyway, but he sends his regrets that it wasn't personal, it was extra personal, because it was his family that he wanted to preserve. So I'd like, the way we're going to run it is I'm going to start with Belinda and ask her to talk a bit about her work and the transition, and then we're going to kind of pile in, and every once in a while we'll pause and kind of introduce someone, and then we'll pile back into each other. But the question that we're starting with is, tell us about what you're doing, and also where have you seen or been a part of innovation in a so-called unexpected place?
Unexpected place. Great. Well, thank you. I'm Belinda, and everyone calls me Just B.
What happened to the other microphones?
Right here. Sitting on it. I'm the owner and founder of Just Be Yoga, and we are a donation-based yoga studio in Lansing. And the Just Be does mean for you to find yourself and just be yourself, but it's also just me. So there. It's been a really interesting transition, and in many ways, the whole journey is one of innovation. Having finally decided that I wanted to be more connected with community rather than just writing about them, rather than helping journalists figure out how to go and interview and write about community. I actually started this company while I was working, and so I was running this and teaching yoga and cleaning up a website first thing in the morning, and assigning stories. And I just decided I couldn't do them both. I was really feeling the disconnection a lot. The key of what I wanted to do, though, was to do it donation-based. I was really seeing a big gap that didn't need to be. Yoga can be really simple. We don't need anything. We can move all the tables right now, and we can be doing yoga. You don't need a $70 yoga mat. You want to do it? Yeah. You don't need a $70 yoga mat. You don't need to wear any fancy clothes. But I wasn't seeing any of that showing up in yoga studios that I've been to. And I mean, I've lived in Dallas. I've gone to yoga around the corner in Boston when Baratunde was there. I've done yoga in a lot of cities, and it can go upwards of $20. I spent $20 yesterday to do yoga. Aerial yoga. So I really wanted, in the time that I was in the paper, running a free weekly class and eventually donation-based class, I started realizing that when I'm going to the grocery store now, people aren't running and hiding from me as that editor lady. I'm that yoga lady. And I'm that person who helped raise money to save a dog. Or I'm that person that helped raise money for some families on Thanksgiving. Or I'm that person, who helped do a protest against guns in our community. Yoga actually means connection and union. And I really started to want to live that because I started realizing that I was very disconnected from community, and just that brief amount of time showed me that. So I decided to go out on a wing and a prayer and jump out in June and said, what the heck, in the end of the day, I can always still write, probably, if they'll have me back, but that I wanted to give it a go and see what real sort of impact that we can have in community. Lansing has need. I'm from Lansing, Michigan. I'm a native Washingtonian, but I live in Lansing, Michigan, and I actually do love Lansing. Baratunde had put up a hashtag of Love Lansing. That hashtag has a story unto itself. But, we have severe obesity issues. We have severe poverty issues. 26.9% of Lansing is impoverished. We only have 114,000 people in the darn city. So I wanted to really see what ways that we could do some impact. First, can we make it affordable and accessible? And so that's what we're doing now. I'm also now extending things to try to be of service. Can yoga be of service? Can a business model actually serve community and not have to be a nonprofit to do it, and truly have an impact and help folks? So we are now a part of the Yoga Service Conference and the Yoga Service Council. And I met a wonderful woman, and we're doing training now for Y12SR, Yoga 12-Step Recovery, where we're going to be teaching how to stay out of drugs by using yoga. So we have a whole bunch of training that's coming up, $250 a pop. That's a lot. I just finished describing the poverty that's going on in our community. So we developed a yoga scholarship fund. Now, we couldn't pull together and get a venue and hold a silent auction and spend all that kind of money. So we used 32 Auction. It's called 32auction.com if you guys haven't heard of it. It's a wonderful way to raise money really quickly and really easily. So in 2 weeks' time, we raised $1,100, for which we were able to provide scholarships for 6 people who are going to eventually train people for substance recovery. Thank you very much. Beyond that, as far as innovation, the key takeaways, and I'll let other people speak in a moment, is I have 2 clients. I have the clients who can pay, the clients who want to pay and pay more, and care about their community and care about how they spend their money. Those are the folks that I approach through the Twitter, through the Facebook, through the website, because they have the access, they have the smartphones. I approach targeting them almost just the same way I would be targeting them if I were an editor in a paper, saying I need this audience to care and try to pull them in. But otherwise, my cleaning lady barely makes $300 a month. She is never going to come to my yoga studio because of a tweet. She doesn't know what a tweet is. She doesn't have a smartphone. She has a flip phone. So that's where the shoe leather marketing comes in. I need them both. So I will present about yoga in as engaging of a way as I can in a community center, in a neighborhood center, at a senior center. I've gone to schools. I've gone to the Boys and Girls Club. I've worked with a roller derby team in order to help promote yoga and find innovative ways to let people see, A, how relevant is yoga, and it's not just something weird, and B, start to bring yoga down to a level of community where it's needed. And I'm not just talking about moving our bodies, but we can talk a little bit more about the benefits of yoga later if we want, and maybe even hang upside down just so that Trish would feel better about it. So I'll hand it over.
Yeah, well, so we'll just dive in around you and
dive in.
Pick up. Yeah. So any questions or disagreements or hate-filled statements that you want to direct?
They hate yoga.
If you hate yoga and just want to go in on it. I did want to follow up immediately talking about, the shift in use of technology, and what tools are you using to keep this thing going? We're at the Social Computing Symposium.
right.
What platforms and what's the impact and reach of it?
Right. Well, I mean, as a business owner, I would probably say that I was able to launch fairly cheaply and quickly just because WordPress exists, because I understand the internet, because I understand social media. So we look bigger than we are in Lansing. There are bigger yoga studios that make a lot more money than I do. But if you were to poll people around Lansing, the only yoga that they know is Just Be Yoga. So I would say that by being able to use the tools in a smart way, in a really inexpensive way, so that I don't have a lot of overhead, that has helped me attract the people who can support the people who need the support. So that would probably be the first big key.
She said spur anything, didn't have to. Yeah. What is this donation model, which I just find so fascinating, and can I share the number you shared at lunch? So 95% of the people end up actually paying. So it's not, so the donation thing ends up being a symbolic value in a community, and you don't really lose a lot of money by doing it. What is it about the current age that's, I mean, there's a bunch of different places that have tried this and it's working. What is it about now, do you think, that catches this? Or would this have worked 50 years ago in Lansing, 100 years, or is it something about the internet and community today?
I think that there's a big wave that are interested in local support and local business, as well as seeing the impact of their work immediately. I think that we have social conscious, but mailing it in, and maybe it's generational now, but mailing a check isn't enough for some people, that they want to be a part of a fabric and feel as though they can see the effect of their work. We have a suggested donation of $8 a class. In most cities, a drop-in is $15 for a class. I paid $20, as I just said the other day. I generally have, I was telling him that I have 50% of the affluent people will pay me twice as much. So folks will pay me $16 to $20 for the class. And that helps supplement those who pay me $5, those who haven't paid me at all. I had a married couple who were unemployed for 2 years, and they came every single day and were unable to pay. And then when the husband got a job, I suddenly saw this donation come online. And I was like, whoa, where'd that money come from? But he was extremely grateful for having had the opportunity to be able to get out of the house, not scream and yell at his wife and talk about it's your fault, and maybe we're going to lose our home. And wanted to give back. So, you can say we're paying it forward, we're paying it backward, that it's karma yoga, whatever, but I do think that people want to be a part of what they're helping and be a part of their community as opposed to just mailing it in.
So it seems like there might be something possibly revolutionary around the mixture of your classes, and I don't know exactly. I'd be interested to hear you talk a little bit about what happens when you open this up, and then you have the people who are donating and the people who are going for free, obviously from different worlds, some connected, some not connected, and what that looks like, and whether you think there's some kind of bigger social change that might emerge from that.
Well, I can hope for a bigger social change. I have city council people come to class. I have state representatives come to class. One of them's a Republican. I want him to do a testimonial for me. I have the unemployed. We do have mixed community classes of all abilities as well as all skills. But I also have tailored our classes across the spectrum. So we offer 40-plus yoga. We offer Yoga 2XL. One of my latest blog posts is our biggest controversy is people are saying that it's an insulting name. It's yoga for bigger bodies. And I told them, well, in New York, there's a class called Fat Yoga. So if you think I'm being insulting, yoga, sorry that you're offended by your shirt size. And we have classes at lunchtime to make it accessible because we're really close to state government in downtown Lansing. So I like to think that we make things very accessible and not just for the able and fit body. Many of us think about yoga in terms of what we see on the Yoga Journal cover. And yoga is not about being skinny or being fashionable or being able to get your heel behind your head. It really means, can you find a deeper connection with mind, body, spirit connection? And a lot of us have really lost lost mind, body, spirit connection. We're really focused on one thing, and we think that that's going to satisfy us, and then later we're all stressed out. You can't move your body. What is it? The sole of our feet, where's Linda? The soles of our feet stimulate our thymus, and so we're sitting on our butts and we're not stimulating our thymus, and so we can't move, and we turn into
Not the
really
thymus. It's crazy.
and then we turn into really irritable people. We've had folks connect who didn't know one another previously. People come. I train the Lansing roller derby vixens right there, and folks come just to be able to meet a vixen. And folks have connected to network for jobs and for connections with Michigan State University, which is also very nearby.
Anyone out there want to? Yes, in the back. You just flew to it.
You would talk a little bit more about your decision to make this not a nonprofit, and just to explore with us the value of that to you, to your community.
Right. Well, I'm really interested in what I would almost coin conscious commerce or hand-to-hand commerce. Can we create a new model for our capitalist adventures, and that it doesn't have to be, can I get as much money as possible and you can't have any, but can I benefit and have a roof over my head and be able to eat and maybe come to New York every once in a while, but I don't need a Lexus and I don't need anything bigger, and can we collectively sustain me, and can I sustain you with what it is I have to give? But that being said, I also have created a nonprofit. So the Free Being Yoga Network is being created solely for service, and that will be doing yoga for special audiences: domestic violence victims, homeless shelters, those who are recovering from substance abuse that I said about Y12SR, as well as at-risk youth. So the photo of me working with the Boys and Girls Club is work toward that end, because it isn't affordable and accessible to them, and there's more grant monies possibly available for those kinds of programming. But the studio itself is something separate, and it is a for-profit venture, and the service end and the service arm will be something that that we're doing for nonprofit.
Anybody else out? Yes.
I just wanted to say I really, really appreciate your experimentation and innovation with that kind of hybrid model that is also really committed to building capacity within communities rather than taking capacity out of communities. And I just hope as you continue with your experimentation and work, you will share out your lessons from the model, because I think it has a ton of relevance for a lot of people, where we're sort of at this moment where I think there's a cultural openness and willingness for people to think about resource sharing and community-based, capacity building kind of models. Like, we're really at the cusp of what I think could be a much more broad-based movement, and we have very few examples of people who are doing it effectively in under-resourced communities. Most of the sharing stuff is happening within like highly privileged, network, hipster, affiliated cultural areas, even though the ideology of it is open sharing everybody. The reality of it is it's not everybody who's doing it. So I'm really glad you're here and talking about what you're doing.
Thank you, thank you. And I just want to chime just a little bit more, and I know that the rest of my panel, has awesome things to talk about, like flying. But it does take a lot of extra effort to spread the word. So I can be thinking about how I'm going to use Facebook, how I'm going to use Twitter, how I'm going to use SoundCloud, how I'm going to do all of those things to disseminate my podcasts and my videos and everything for those who are going to give me big money. But I've spent a lot of time also going to neighborhood associations and finding out, do you have a website? Do the people who are in your neighborhood use it? Because I don't want to put anything on their website if they're not going to use it. What's the best way to reach out to your resident organization? Different apartment complexes have newsletters, etc. And I just finished having a conversation with a huge apartment complex nearby, and the woman says, our website is awesome, but we just finished polling everyone who lives here, and they don't use it. They are only really using, and they're trying to make it a bulletin board to say these activities are going on in our complex as well as in our neighborhood. But those people live there, and they just figure, I don't need to look at the website because I already live here, that they don't see it as a tool. So I'm recognizing some of the limitations even in my own community, but I can help them try to see how they could use these tools to inform their community of the things that they need as well. Because having come from media, I also know the news that my community isn't getting. I know what General Lansing isn't finding out about, that they can afford, and that's good for them, as opposed to, I mean, we could tend to just be writing about capital, you know, the state capital business forever in the Lansing State Journal and not really tell people what's going on in the neighborhoods. And sadly, we actually don't know what's going on in the neighborhoods, but that's a different conversation.
You want a video first, or you want to talk first?
Yeah, I might just
Jump.
in really quickly on this.
Oh, yeah.
What's
A little closer.
super interesting. Yeah, I don't think it's on. Okay. What's super interesting about sort of where the three of us come from as storytellers is the kind of relationship that you have with the communities and with the people that you're telling stories about. And I think often within this field, it can be really exploitative. You know, you're using people for these stories, and what I admire about what you've been able to do now is, you know, departing a bit from that profession and actually getting embedded in the community and actually offering and being of service to people. And I don't know if you still feel like there's hope for, you know, more traditional storytellers like us and what our level of responsibility is to some of the communities that we work with.
I haven't given up. What I've given up is I have given up on mainstream media. So my departure, you know, is a step away from that. But you ask anyone who's ever worked with me, I'm an extremely passionate person when it comes to storytelling, learning how to interview, how to get rapport, how to immerse yourself into an environment and really tell the story to a deeper level. But we don't have that time, particularly if you're on a treadmill of pumping out content. And you're also down to a newsroom. There's more people right here than were in the entire newsroom by the time I left it. You know, I arrived at a newsroom that had 75 people, and I depart from that newsroom with 21 people. That's no way to serve a community of 114,000, much less 3 whole counties. So, you know, I think that I haven't given up on storytelling, and I do use the blog to tell the stories, whether it's of a disabled, some disabled brothers who've learned how to play Tai Chi and go beyond disability, or whether it's working with a sex offender who never really finds freedom because he will always, always have to check in with somebody, or whether it's working with a woman who's bipolar and I get to get her off of lithium and she gets to drive her car again. Those, I mean, we all know, I mean, any of us who are journalists in the room, pick any of those 3, and those are awesome stories to dig deeper and deeper into, never mind the yoga aspect of it. I'm just a part of the fabric of their story and helping them find their story themselves rather than always getting to be able to tell about them.